Hello everybody and welcome. Today I want to do an update on my 10-gallon planted shrimp tank. Oh boy, I've had this tank for a long time. I've had it now for over a year and a half, and it's come a long, long way. And I'm kind of surprised that it's still doing as good as it is. Um, Part of me is kind of worried that the substrate is going to start shutting down. It's going to not have enough nutrients to kind of supply the plants, but everything's still been going strong, so can't really complain there. I want to do a proper overview of the tank. I want to talk about the design, the equipment, and the current stocking, as a lot's changed, and I've done and added some things since I first set it up, and I haven't gone through it properly, I don't really think, ever. So I wanted to do that finally for the first time. So, oh boy, where do I start? Let's start with the design. I just dropped some food in, um, which plays into the design. So what you need to know is the tank was set up with the intent of being a dedicated shrimp tank for my crystal red and blue dream shrimp. Now, a lot of shrimp keepers will tell you that you really shouldn't mix them as they breed best in different conditions, and they're right. I didn't really know that when I went into this almost 2 years ago. Nonetheless, I'm still trying to give it a shot to try and have both of them breed about the same amount. So I'm trying to balance the parameters and stuff to try and get a steady balance between the two. I am using RO water to soften my tap water, which does come out too high for the crystals. I guess, preferences. It's more or less okay for the Neocaridina or the Blue Dreams. Um, but even then, I still wanted to soften it some. So that's what I'm currently doing for the water to try and breed them both. But the design was set up to be that dedicated shrimp tank, and I knew that I knew when I was setting it up that I wanted a lot of surface area. I wanted a lot of dense groupings of plants and driftwood to give the shrimp a lot of room to crawl around and to graze to support a potentially high population of shrimp. Um, and it's worked out pretty well. When I started taking classes down in Florida, I started dealing with really, really hard water, and Neocaridina started doing really, really well. And I mean, I'd sell some to a local fish store 30 at a time because I just had so many shrimp, and there would still be tons. So from that perspective, it's done really well. Um, but as far as an aesthetic thing goes, I wanted the tank to look good. I didn't want to just breed shrimp well. I also wanted it to be appealing. I wanted to show off the shrimp. Um, and so I kind of came up with the idea of doing two very opposite sides of the tank. So one side being the dense foliage, lots of driftwood, the Java fern, the darker plants, all on one side. And then on the other side, I wanted a bright green carpet that just consisted of really of one plant species all the way across the tank, which is basically what I've done. So on the left side, I have a big carpet of Monte Carlo, which is a similar plant to that of dwarf baby tears. I've grown both dwarf baby tears and Monte Carlo. I do like Monte Carlo more because it's easier to trim. Um, it doesn't look, it looks pretty good. I like it. I like the way it looks in the tank, the way it works in the tank. Um, Baby tears does look better. It's just harder to trim. When I've had it before, I just pull out all the plants when I try and trim it. This has a bit more of it has a bigger root structure, which allows it to hold its place. And so when you trim, it's a bit more forgiving. I mean, if you yank on it, it's gonna come up. But if you have a nice pair of small tweezers, it makes trimming it no problem. So yeah, that's why I do like the Monte Carlo, and that's why there's Monte Carlo in here rather than dwarf baby tears. Um, and I'm really glad I did go with Monte Carlo. That was the original plant that I put in here a year and a half ago. So you can really see how much that's grown in if you go back and watch the old footage, you can see what it looked like when I had three little groupings of this plant in this aquarium, and now you can't even tell it's one big lush carpet. So on the right side, it's mostly consisting of Java fern. There's mostly just, I guess you would consider just run-of-the-mill Java fern, your standard Java fern. Intermingled with that is a bronze crypt, so Cryptocoryne wendetti bronze. I believe it has been a year and a half, so I could be slightly off, but I believe that's what it was when I got it. Um, I also have some Wendelov Java fern in there. I just kind of added that to shake up the texture a little bit. When I say I just added that, that was uh, 3 months ago or so I added that. Um, on the far right side is this big Anubias plant that I had in there from the very beginning. Honestly, I kind of want to take the plant out because I don't really like the way that looks in the tank. I think it's a bit too big, but there's no way I'm getting that thing out. It's well too rooted in. If I were to try and get it out, it'd just make a huge mess, so it's not really worth it. Then kind of intermingled with the driftwood, at least on the tops of some of the branches and stuff, and a bit more on the left, is Java fern or Java fern, Java moss, which I didn't put in there. I must have had a couple small pieces in there, and it's grown into what you see in the tank now. Um, I can't complain. I actually kind of like the way it looks. I know a lot of people bash on Java moss, but um, I like the way it grows. I think when you get it in like a big clump, it doesn't look as good. But if you start off with a really small amount and you grow it big, it grows in to fill that space really, really well, and it'll grow into basically any shape that it wants. And from that perspective, I think it's a really great plant for aquascapes. I just recommend starting off with a little bit, let it grow in to fill it in its own space rather than put a whole bunch in and then try to trim it to get the shape that you want. Kind of cooperate with it a bit. Then behind all the driftwood, I have a bunch of Rotala, which is in all of my planted tanks. Oh man, when did I get that? I got my first Rotala stems 3 years ago. I want to say 3 years ago. And from those like 5 stems that I got, I've grown all the Rotala that you see in all of my aquariums. So, and it's all adjusted to my tank water. I have plenty of it now after I've been growing it for 3 years. So, it just ends up everywhere, and I can't be bothered to buy a different stem plant that looks almost the same. But I have thought about changing some of that out in the back right corner for a Ludwigia and maybe a Ludwigia or something else that grows up out of the water. Um, so over the years, I've had a couple different tank mates for the shrimp. When I first set it up, I had a half beak, I think it's a half beak, live bearer. I took those out. I thought they were just, I didn't know at the time, but I guess they do get a decent size. Um, wasn't thinking they're going to bother it too much, but I want to move them to a different tank, and I just want to make sure the shrimp are going to be fine because it's easier to get more fish to put in the tank than it is for me to get the shrimp because the shrimp, I got really nice ones when I first got my first few, and I needed to make sure they were going to be fine. So I took those out, which is for a long time I just ran shrimp. Um, then I started adding a few rasboras. I added Phoenix rasboras to this tank, which was a great decision because they look good in this tank. Um, Now the Phoenix rasboras, for those of you that don't know, are the red fish. So when I put the fish food in, you kind of got to see the white or the kind of goldish color fish, which I think may be a Kubotai or neon green rasbora that just aren't neon green. They may not be, I don't know. But the Phoenix rasboras are the red ones in this tank. I've had some of those in there for a long time. I got some more, but I think the ones they sent me are a strawberry rasbora. They have a rounder, more well-defined spot, um, which is kind of why I think it might be a strawberry rasbora. Oh, it's a strawberry variant of it. Strawberry species. I don't know if it's a different species or not, but that's what I think they may be. I don't know for sure, but they do look very different than the ones I have. So for lighting, I have a Phoenix Planted Plus 24/7 model. Um, it's a nice light. I don't use the 24/7 mode, I guess you could say. I used it at first, but I had a bit of algae and I haven't switched back to it since. Filter is a Whisper 20, I believe, or it's the one made for 20-gallon aquariums, but yeah, no, it's the one made for 20-gallon aquariums. I'm pretty sure. I've had that for years and years and years. And in it I have a plant. I've seen it like my parents or my mom, my grandma, they were actually rooting it in water, which is kind of where I had the idea, like, what if I just put that in a fish tank? What would happen? Which I did, and it's done fantastic, and I absolutely love it. It is a high-tech tank. You probably can tell the CO2 diffuser in the very back middle of the aquarium. But that's it. I don't dose any fertilizers. The only fertilizers I guess they kind of get was when I do water changes, and it kind of refreshes some of the mineral content of the water because I have slightly harder tap water. So yeah, I've had this tank up for quite a while. It's been doing really good. Um, it's a really fun tank to watch. A lot of unique behaviors, seeing the fish darting out of the plants, and same thing for the shrimp. You can watch them crawl out of the driftwood and onto this carpet and watch them feast on all the food that I give them. So if you haven't already, check out my blog site. Link to that will be in the description of this video. Um, I put a lot of work into that. I'm going to start putting more work into that. It's not necessarily a blog, it's kind of just articles and posts and things that I find that don't really work well for a video, but in a text style format, it does pretty well. Um, Once classes start up, that's really going to be, I won't be able to do as many videos, so that's what I'm going to start doing a lot more of. Um, Check out my older videos of this tank if you really want to see where this tank's come from and how it's done. Um, it's not as well edited, as admittedly as some of my newer videos, but I mean, almost 2 years ago. So, bear that in mind, but you can really see the day-night transformation of this tank as it's grown in, and it's really fascinating to watch, and I'm really glad I've been able to document it through YouTube over the past few years because it's really cool to actually go back and really see what it used to look like. So check that out, and have an awesome week, guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.